Now, Powell's address today had a much different tone than when he spoke 2 years ago as inflation was rising.
Reducing inflation is likely to require a sustained period of below-trend growth. Moreover, there will very likely be some softening of labor market conditions. While higher interest rates, slower growth, and softer labor market conditions will bring down inflation, they will also bring some pain to households and businesses. These are the unfortunate costs of reducing inflation. But a failure to restore price stability would mean far greater pain.
Ooh, just the words give you chills, don't they? Now, his warning that day spooked the markets. The Dow fell just more than 1,000 points. Think about that. Today's shift is potentially signaling, though, as I was just speaking with Catherine, about a new era. It will mean lower interest rates on everything from cars, homes, to credit cards. Those with money in savings accounts, though, may need to change their strategy. Ken Fisher is the founder and executive chairman of Fisher Investments, and he joins me now. You know, this is the money part that everyone's interested in. You know, your warning, ignore the Fed, or more specifically, do not bet on the Fed. Okay, so we get that advice out of the way. What are you betting on now, given where we are in markets and, more importantly, where you think the market might be going?
First, it's a bull market. It's been a bull market. We're just 0.6% away from all-time highs in the S&P 500. The world market on a cap-weighted basis is just behind that. The fact is, as I've long said, developed world markets are highly correlated. The election year of a president in America is positive 83% of history since the beginning of accurate data in 1925. When the first half of a year has been positive, as was this year, there's only been one exception in history when the back half wasn't positive, and that was long ago in 1948. The fact is, the economy's doing okay. The market is doing well. The election renders falling uncertainty from here as we finally get a winner and clarity about what politics looks like moving into the next cycle. And that's all bullish. The process of trying to outguess the Fed or think what Powell's going to say next or wiggle this way or that way is a little bit like somebody trying to outguess who wins or loses in musical chairs when the music never really stops, because after the next thing, then there's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
We hear you, and I do want to go back to your analysis in terms of the presidential election, but I also want to ask you, your stat on the bull market, that sometimes makes people nervous, right? They're thinking, we're near a top, we're going to be at a top. Don't I take some money out of the market at this point, perhaps do some rotation?
Well, first, most people just had the bejabbers scared out of him as the market plummeted between mid-July into early August. And whenever that happens, emotions run high. People tend to have greater belief in reported fears, and all that resets psychology lower. The markets hit endless new highs in a bull market. This bull market, which started in October of 2022, oh, by the way, while the Fed was still in the process of hiking rates 75 basis points at a crack month after month, and then continuing after that, this bull market isn't 2 years old. There's almost never a bull market that hits its first birthday without getting to a second. But this is just not a bad time, and the fact that people are afraid of it being too good is bullish, not bearish. That's fear. Fear is a good thing.
Understood. And I do want to get back to that election cycle. So it is something that you call the perverse inverse. Can you please explain that?
Sure. So we have a very long history of presidential elections and stock market returns. So it's easy to analyze what happens in the first half of the year, back half of the year, if Democrats win, if Republicans win. When we elect a Republican, because people tend to think Republicans are more pro-business and anti-regulatory and all that stuff, markets tend to be above average in the election year, and particularly the back half of the election year. When we elect a Democrat, the reverse happens. But then when we get to the inaugural year, those two flip-flop. And in the inaugural year, having elected a Democrat, we get above average returns significantly, and with Republicans below average. Why? because people tend to think the Democrats anti-business, Republican pro-business, Republican pro-free market, Republican Democrat more pro-regulatory. And the fact of the matter is the American system is set up to make presidents not be able to do as much as some people hope and other people fear. And in the inaugural year, after people have gotten all excited or depressed about what got elected as it would impact business, the surprise is the president can't do as much as people might have hoped for or feared. And therefore, the Republican year tends to be disappointing in the inaugural year. The Democrat in the inaugural year tends to be a positive surprise because they can't do what so many feared they might to hurt business and free markets.
You know, in terms of the analysis itself, some people have been afraid that the bull market is dominated too much by tech, too much by just a few industries or even just a few companies. Do you see that as a problem? I know recently there has been more diversity, shall we say, in some of the gains on the market in terms of sectors.
I see that from the moment it was first uttered as ignorance. The fact of the matter is this bull market has not been as broad as many, but it's actually been broad. The easiest way to see that is to look at all of the countries, of which there are most of them in the developed world, not all, but most, that don't have really any tech at all, that have hit all-time highs in this bull market. That could not happen if it was a narrow market led by just a few tech stocks. Now, it is true, of course, that tech has done better than other sectors. And you can see that on a daily basis almost, on every single day, not every day, but almost every day. When the market's up, tech's up more. When the market's down, tech's down more. That's because tech's leading, and if you believe it's a bull market, as I do, you believe that tech will continue to lead. But 2/3 of the stocks this year are up nicely in total around the world. That's a fact that most people just don't seem to be prepared to accept.
And I take your point on the ignorance part, guilty as charged. We will ride the bull, and hopefully our stomachs will hold. Ken Fisher for us. Have a great weekend. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Paula.